Candy Rogers, who lived in West Central Spokane and was 9 years old, left her house on March 6, 1959, in the afternoon to sell campfire mints in and around her neighborhood. As time passed, there was no sign that she would return. Because they thought the worst, her family began to lose hope. Then, after 2 hard weeks and many large-scale efforts to find her, a sad discovery was made. Her body was found deep in the thick woods, far from her home and the places she knew. Detectives worked hard and for a long time to figure out what happened to her, but the secret of her death was not solved for many years. But after more than 60 years, the truth was finally revealed. What did end up happening to Candy? In the woods, she got lost. Was she killed by a wild animal? Or did she go through something much worse? Today we will look at the case of Candy Roger. But first, if you are new here, please subscribe and press the bell notification. Now, let's delve into the case. Spokane is a city in the U.S. state of Washington. In the middle of the city is the Spokane River. It is known for its long past and natural beauty, which makes it a popular place for people who like to be outside. Candy's parents, ELAINE and Carl Rogers, had her in 1950. Candy was her name because she was their only child. Her folks loved her very much. No one knows why ELAINE and Carl's marriage fell apart, but it did. After getting a divorce, they both went their separate ways, but Candy stayed in the city. The Lilac Festival, which is held every year to celebrate the growth of the city's flowers, is another thing that makes the city famous. Everyone could see that Candy was growing up to be a smart, happy, and bright young woman with a bright future. No one thought that a terrible thing would happen soon that would kill Candy and shake the town to its core. On March 6, 1959, Candy went to school. On Friday, she was looking forward to hanging out with her friends. On that fateful afternoon, Candy joined a group of young women selling chocolate door to door. No one knows what happened after that, but she didn't come home around 5:30 p.m. Around 6 p.m. Elaine's worry grew, and she was sure something was wrong. She told Candy's grandfather Stanley Newton right away because she thought it was strange for Candy to be outside this late. Slowly, the minutes passed, and to her, it seemed like hours had gone by. Other family members, friends, and neighbors also knew that Candy hadn't come home, and by 6:30 p.m., a small group of people had set out to look for her. People who lived in the area were asked first if they knew where she was. Some people said they had seen her earlier selling campfire mints out of boxes, but no one seemed to know where she was now. After the close call, Newton and his friends were scared, but as the sky got darker, they quickly turned their attention back to finding Candy. Even though it was getting dark and they were having trouble finding Candy, the guys kept hoping they would find her before nightfall. At some point, the missing girl was also reported to the cops. Soon, police officers and sheriff's deputies came. No matter how many days went by, the Candy was still gone. When Candy was found on March 22, 1956, she had been gone for 16 days. It had been 16 days since she was last seen. That afternoon, 2 airmen named Howard Lawrence and Richard Bergen were hunting woodchucks in a wooded area about 7 miles from where Candy had last been seen. ELAINE was barely recognizable. She wouldn't eat and just kept staring off into space. When they heard the news, more than 1,000 people who had spent time, money, and energy looking for Candy were shocked. At that point, everyone felt afraid, and many people started to worry about their own safety and the safety of their children. ELAINE fell asleep and couldn't wake up, so she had to be put to sleep. Candy was abused before she was choked to death, as her autopsy showed. Because of this, the Spokane Police Department started looking into who did it. The first person the authority thought might have done it was HUGH BAYERN MORSE, a serial killer who was in jail at the time. When they did an autopsy on Candy's body, they had good reason to think he was involved. During that time, Police Chief Clifford Payne told the press, "We know what we're looking for, and now we're looking for a maniac." Candy was finally put to rest, and her family members who were sad about it hoped that her killer would be found as soon as possible. But months passed, and the police still didn't know how to solve the case. Carl, Candy's dad, killed himself in June 1963, 4 years after his daughter died, because he couldn't deal with losing her. When forensic experts went to work right away and found blood on Candy's trousers, It was an exciting time for the police. They felt like they were getting closer to figuring out what was going on. They were able to get the DNA out and do a DNA study with it. In 2002, police matched the DNA profile to that of Morse, who had been on their radar for a while, but to their disappointment, he was not the man they were looking for. Nothing interesting happened for a long time, and in September 2006, Candy's sad mother died peacefully at home at the age of 82. When she died, forensic genetic genealogy had just become a cutting-edge science that was being used to solve a number of cold cases. Before she found out who killed her daughter, she died. With this method, which is becoming more popular, DNA analysis and standard genealogical methods are used to solve crimes and find lost people. In other words, it uses science and family history to find hints and help victims and their families get justice. The officers decided to use it to help them find out who killed Candy. When a DNA sample that had been kept in the freezer since 2001 became available, the case was given to a forensic scientist with the Washington State Patrol named Brittany WRIGHT. The sample was then looked at again to make sure that the DNA profile from 2001 was the same as the sample. After this was proven, she did a diagnostic study to see if it could be used for forensic genetic genealogy. The sample was then sent to a private lab for investigation, but that didn't help because the DNA sample was too old for the lab to use. The detectives' dreams were completely dashed by the news, and they couldn't hide how sad they were. After this, it would be a year before the cops got a break. They found out about a lab that could work well with DNA that had broken down, like the DNA in Candy's case. The lab was in Texas and was called Othram. Brittany called them to find out if Candy's case was eligible. When they said it was, she sent them a small amount of the rest of the DNA sample to test. After 6 months, the lab sent a reply. John Andrew, Terry Hoff, and another brother were all named as possible suspects, but it turned out that they had all died a long time ago. After doing more research, the detectives found that one of the men was one of the 3 brothers. When they found out that John had a daughter named Kathy, they decided to look up the young girl who had died in 1959 so they would know who it was. Kathy told the cops that she had given them a sample of her DNA, which they then looked at. Kathy's DNA matched the suspect's DNA 2.9 million times more likely than an average person. John was discharged from the army for desertion and later died by suicide at 31. Detectives discovered John and Candy may have known each other. Kathy agreed to a search order to exhume Joan's body, which confirmed John as Candy's killer through DNA analysis. Candy's family finally got closure, although they never saw the perpetrator brought to justice. Kathy was sorry for the pain her father caused the family, and said she grew up thinking John killed himself because he was sad. Do you think John killed Candy on purpose or by accident? Let us know in the comments section what you think, and don't forget to like, comment, and follow.